morning, everybody. Here's a copy of the 2-week, we'll get a bunch of documents just to hand out. The 2-week look ahead schedule. Meeting minutes and current meeting notice. And our meeting packet, which I'll get into. On this one here, I included probably more documents than we need. I think we can do cover pages and save a tree at some point. But it was helpful. I was talking with the town accountant yesterday. They were trying to track down a particular line item for the elevator allowance. And having all the paperwork is very helpful. Does everybody have a copy? All right. So, well, let's go in from a housekeeping standpoint. If you turn to the document that has today's public meeting notice, it is the minutes from the January 22nd meeting. Any comments, corrections, or concerns?
The only thing I would say on number 2, that room wasn't a radio room. It was a
Data room.
data room. That's the only thing I see.
Okay. So, anything else we can have John just change that with, or honestly, I can change it when I send it into town clerk.
Motion to approve these meeting minutes?
Do we have a second?
Change? I'll second.
With the change, yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. All right, if you turn, one matter, I received a communication regarding an uptick in rodents in the area. I forwarded the concern to our town administrator, who certainly forwarded it to the Board of Health, who was reviewing it, and actually sent out a neighborhood notice on do's and don'ts in managing bird feeders, food sources, and the like. So that's where that's at. I just wanted to make sure that we got that into the meeting.
I also believe that she's looking into bait boxes on the construction site too.
Yeah, I think my thought was, belongs at the Board of Health, let them come back, they're the experts, come back with a recommendation.
I think that's what
Yeah,
it was.
That's gonna be okay.
Yeah, that wasn't my recommendation.
Yeah, no, I think though, but they need to find what the food source is. Certainly, the building site doesn't have a food source. There's no dumpsters, there's no feed, there's no...
There was also no subterranean structures on the construction site. So,
I think what happens, Al, is when the little bit of vibratory compaction disturbed a nest located elsewhere. And they spent a lot of work going on in that whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
The gas company's been there for months.
Digging up the roads.
Yeah, digging up the road. So it's going to be a combination of probably all three, but full faith in our Board of Health to address it correctly. All right, if you go to your meeting packet, tab 1 is the payment requisition number 2. The first document is the letter of recommendation issued by Vertex, recommending the payment of the requisition amount. The next page is the actual application and certification for payment. The original contract sum has not changed. It's $6.4 million, $18,301. Total completed and stored to date is $237,165. We have a retainage of $11,858.25. Previous payment of $137,580.90. Current payment due $87,725.85. There's been no add or deletions to the contract as of presentation of this. That certainly will change. All the other supporting documents break out the schedule of values per task. I think in the future, unless someone requests that, I think I'd only include the cover sheet. Once that's signed and executed, that means that both Zell, Steve, and Dave have signed off on it, and it's another 20 pages of printing that. I can send it out electronically, I think,
Yeah,
for the
PDF
benefit of the
like that,
meeting.
yeah.
Okay. What I wanted to do was, as the committee and the town accountant and the town procurement is working through this, more paperwork. It's gonna get a little confusing starting out, because we're gonna be, which we'll get into on change orders or PCOs, potential change orders.
You will print it for the pencil rec, right? So everyone will have it for the,
Yeah, the pencil rec, we have.
Well, yeah, no, the original copies that actually John has.
what I'm saying is though, is everyone will see this when we review the pencil rec, you'll have all the backups. By the time you approve the backup, really you're only looking for the front.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, so I guess my question is, at next meeting,
Right.
do you want to see all of the backup in your packet, or do you want it just electronically?
Electronic, please, fine with me.
My vote's
I
electronic.
mean, it doesn't really, it's
On this
only,
particular one, not much will have changed on most of the page.
yeah.
Right, I guess I was just trying to repeat my agreement with Bob, that only the front cover would be needed after it's signed.
Okay. And again, that certainly can change as need be, or as things heat up and becomes a little more complicated. All right, any questions? Any questions on the payment rec? All right, do we have a motion
To
to,
approve the payment rec as presented.
okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, unanimous. I thought John Keller was coming, I didn't hear otherwise. You get the notes, okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right,
I'll forward it, John.
if you turn to tab 2, one of the requests the town has from time to time is the estimated monthly billing. And again, that's to help with the bonding, on the drawdown and the bonding. That was provided, that's tab 2. Again, it still comes out, the contract amount hasn't changed. Any questions on that? If you turn to tab 3, it's the submittal log. All of us on Procore have been seeing upwards of 100 transfers of documents on RFIs and what have you. BC Construction put together, Zell had requested this, and I think it's very helpful for us. We've got probably upwards of about 100 submittals. This gives us the status of what's opened, what's closed. Now, again, this is generated by the contractor, I think Zell and Steve May will review this, but I think from a committee standpoint, it just gives us the amount of paperwork and amount of work that's been done. The first 6 to 8 weeks of all projects like this is really submittals, RFIs, and getting all your filed sub-bidders. Okay.
Are there any submittals, Zell, that you typically would then ask the chief, deputy chief to review?
Yes, at some point in time, other people need to be involved. We already have one such example, which is the town's IT person. We wanted them to review the color cabling.
Yeah.
Okay, for all the cat wire.
Nomenclature.
Right, and she got that
Yeah,
back
yeah,
too.
and so we just wanna make sure that so those kinds of, once we get into elements that may or may not need to be reviewed, we would certainly ask the question, who should be looking at some things like that,
Okay.
so.
And do you guys have any submittals that you're knowingly wanting to look at?
Yeah, I'd like to see the one that she sent you,
Yeah.
for the cabling.
Yeah.
We had a conversation, but I didn't see.
It is posted, so,
Okay.
see, one of the beauties is that you could just look at it.
We're all on Procore, so we all get
Yeah, I
it.
must have missed that one, because it's amazing how many come in, but I
Yeah.
must have
No,
missed
no,
that one.
it's,
So
I'm not saying
like-
uncle yet.
Well, it was part of, the cabling was part of a submission of
And you
a
did.
lot of electrical
Yeah,
equipment. It
right,
wasn't
right, right.
just, it wasn't separate
sure.
in that sense. So yeah, I mean, if you review what the contents of any given submittal are, you have to just check and see what's actually in it.
The only one to date I saw was like plumbing fixtures, in which there
Yeah,
was a
that-
special fixture within the holding cell that you guys should look at.
Although
There's
that's
compliance
become
issues,
then that's become that's really a state health.
Right,
issue.
exactly.
That's,
Issue,
it's
all
all
and
spec'd
they
out,
have to
regulations
review it,
as to
And
what we
they
have to
review
go.
everything, we have to send them all the
But
docs.
there's there's a check and balance, and the reason you get all these submittals is so that you can, architect can check them,
Mhm.
and then there's a second set of eyes. I mean, I've
Yeah.
gone through, I've saved a couple and looked at them, like light fixtures and plumbing fixtures, and I was just really thinking more of like where you guys really need to put your eyes on something to double, triple check that
Mhm.
what gets approved on paper and is gonna show up a couple months from now is exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Man, I would think we have a Massachusetts Prisoners Association that would chime in on these things. We seem to
Yeah,
have
no, there's,
entities for everything else.
The Department of Public Health,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll get them involved when we're,
they are
Yeah.
involved,
exactly.
they're already involved.
so Martha, thank you. You've been chiming in and handling some of this stuff, especially on the cabling
Yeah,
question.
I see, I sent that one too.
Yeah, which, thank you for being the air traffic controller on that
You're
one.
welcome.
But if anyone else, if something comes up, honestly, I click on them, look at the cover page, and see where it's at, and then
That's what I've been doing mostly because I have no idea what I'm talking about with washed stone on, store covers and things like
yeah,
that.
You'll be
you need to
next.
get out more.
Yeah, I know, I do.
All right, gentlemen, moving on to tab 4. So, like every project, we start to have owner-requested RFIs, which is the precursor to the start of a potential change order. Now,
You mean RFPs,
or RFPs I'm talking about.
yes.
Excuse me. Now, PCOs, I always refer to them as potential change orders.
Yep.
Someone calls them proposed.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay, I mean, it's all,
It's just,
so, under tab 4, you'll see, if we go back on the elevator, if we all recall the elevator, when the elevator bids came in, they came in actually substantially higher than we thought in comparison to the recently awarded Essex project. The design team issued an addendum and had all the bidders carry a an allowance of $186,000. And we revised the specification to a holeless hydraulic. The end result is a potential, an actual savings of minus $53,000. So this was the intake on this. So I guess Zell and Steve, from the committee standpoint, both of you would sign off on this first before we would entertain it here. I put it in for more information only at this point. So what would be the process from a paperwork standpoint? Would you be generating a letter of recommendation, Steve, or?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Procedurally, as we're just getting this started.
Right.
So typically, if we have the design team have a note indicating that it's an additional item, or they see no issue with it, and confirming that it's an additional cost to the project, not already contained within the contract documents. And then we'll do the same, which is a cover letter that makes a recommendation to the committee to accept. My suggestion with these presented tonight or today is that
We're gonna take them under, we're just taking them under advisement.
or you could have a not to exceed amount that perhaps authorize you to sign a change order with these items upon that recommendation. That's up to you.
You know what, I would say, why don't we, I wanted to get them in because, one, they're two items of, we've all had some questions on, and certainly the novelty of having actual change order that's a credit is going to be far and few between. And I thought walking through it with the committee and getting the protocol, so, but I don't think there's any urgency tonight to actually take any action on these today. So, so if you look at that, what you have here is the change order proposal by BC. The 186 allowance, the actual cost is going to be $133,000. There's an attachment of the Delta Beckwith proposal. And BC passed that through just as a deduction.
So the only, we should add the caveat that because this was an allowance that was issued to be carried and is included in the total cost of the project currently, the amount of bonding that's been established includes this, the full cost of the allowance.
Right.
So there should be some savings from the reduction of the actual contract value.
And certainly their markup too.
Well, there is no markup involved in this change because
But wouldn't they, but wouldn't they?
because it doesn't change anything that they're doing.
But their total bid amount would have been X, which would have included the 186.
That's correct.
Then they would have had their, what's their markup, 7.5%?
But yeah,
But I think, you know, at the, we'll track that, because there's going to be a time when the next change order will be an ad.
yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying, they're gonna factor in the bond
They
and
can
the
always
overhead.
charge you for more,
Okay,
for the bond money.
I think
One
it's,
should be credited.
so I think that's a good discussion
Yep. We'll
that you
finalize
can
it.
have at your next meeting.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, no, very good point, Sal, thank you. All right, any questions, team, on that? And Eric, what's your thoughts on, we'll run these through the meeting first, when they become available and for intake. We can have a discussion on it,
Yeah, I think it's,
and then follow up once we have the letters of, you know, the associated letters of recommendation, move it forward.
so where in this is the, any schedule implications?
There are none,
No, but where is
because
it?
they didn't submit any,
No,
because
but
it's,
where is it on this that tells me the price that says schedule 0 impact?
No, it's a great question.
Well, all they've done is submitted the actual proposal
Okay.
from
So,
Delta, which is the
as
next
we
page.
review what the parts and pieces and what the dollar is, there's also a time schedule value that can be nothing, or it could be listed, but somehow it should be presented as part of the, it goes equal with the
I
cost.
think it's a good point. If you can memorialize that with BC on how you're going to handle the bond and insurance, and just add the notation of the line item on schedule, that is
Because
zero.
something like this, we think we have time in which to process this, but in another one, it may be sensitive to say that, like, here's your savings, but if you don't order this by tomorrow, it's gonna bust the schedule because this is a long lead item, and this is coming, we need to order, you know, the spill needs to go in tomorrow
Oh,
in order
sure.
to get this thing in 4
Oh,
months.
there's
5
schedule
months.
impact, certainly.
So,
Okay.
we need to be made aware of that at
Yep.
the same time.
My suggestion, Bob, in terms of this committee's review, is we can look at a list of PCOs that are out there in various stages, but a specific review here, I don't suggest until Zell and his team make a recommendation, because the recommendation may be just a simple rejection,
Right.
Yep.
and there's no reason to have any time spent here on something
Okay.
like that. But we can certainly look at a list.
Well, what I'll do is, these two are the ones we kind of were pushing for, which was the elevator and the comm tower, which we kind of know, we really knew what they were going to be, but we wanted to get the process going. I think it's a good point, so from this point forward, PCOs will be presented to the committee when you have signed off on them. That's what you're recommending, Steve, correct?
Yes, a review of a list, perhaps,
Yeah.
as a general outline of
Yeah,
what's out
Steve will present a list, an updated list at each meeting,
Okay.
but only present the full PCO when it's been reviewed and there's some proper direction or recommendation to go with it.
Okay. All right, any other questions on the PCO for the elevator? So at some point in time, this will circle back to the application for payment as the contract amount will be reduced by the change order and offset by other PCOs that'll be adding to it, so. All right, if you turn to tab 5, just looking at the clock. It is, if you all recall, we had gotten bids from TCS on the communications tower. Originally, it was being treated as an owner-supplied component. After discussion and the recommendation about Steve and Zell, we've asked BC to take that over. And so this was the start of it. So they've agreed to take over, so there'll be turnkey. We're not going to be a third party trying to schedule anything. So what you have here is the original quotes from TCS. If you turn to your next page, it gives you the subcontractor total is $48,705. If you recall in our schedule of values, we carry this amount in our FF&E for $50,000. BC is entitled to their GC markup and bond and insurance. So the net cost to the town is going to be $54,486.28.
As proposed,
As proposed.
yes. So we'll review that and make a recommendation.
Right.
Yep.
But that's how we'll see some of these things come through with that. I'm happy to see that BC is cooperating and just working with us and sharing these documents. I would dare say, Steve, you have issues where that they're saying the elevator change is a $20,000 credit.
Of course.
They're not actually required to share with us their bid stuff, right?
Nope.
So I think that BC is working with us on this. So again, this is all the documentation. Okay. Under tab 6, Ground improvements and schedule. PC has provided a summary. When we review, I think we can, let's circle back on this when we look at the 2-week look ahead, because it has ground improvements when it's going to start. If you go to tab 7. Okay, it was the knotweed land certifications on, from cradle to grave. I really wish I had actually pushed back a little bit on that with our Conservation Commission. That became more of a task than it really needed to be, I think. And rather than burying it on ground, on site, it's being buried in Vermont.
Yeah,
I mean, it's wrapped in plastic. That was more for the record. I did forward a copy of this to Conservation, to Doug Packer. And the last document on tab 8 is the recycled material that will be used for bringing everything up to grade in the sub-base for the site. The design team requested, beyond the normal testing, it was tested for VOCs to make sure that it's contaminant free. And Riverhawk provided that there. So again, these were kind of the items. I don't know, I mean, I think it's, where the project is coming out of the box. Is this the type of detail we really want to be looking at as far as the knotweed and at this level? We get all this at our, on the Procore transmittal, but the reason I say this, when we have 30 of these at one time, it's gonna be a little bit different, but
I don't know what's normal. I mean, these guys can tell us what's normal with these.
I think every committee does it different. You know what? Most of the time, I'll be honest, this side of the table runs everything.
Right.
And we just nod our heads.
I'll throw my hat, and if somebody really wants to have everything, if I get it, I can just scan it on our, at work and just set up a group, and it'll just, like, this whole document will go out as one email to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I can do what I do now. The problem is the files are getting so big, I've got to use the cloud.
Yeah, yeah.
Or send them in
that's
multiple
what-
parts,
that's what I
which,
Yeah.
you know, probably isn't the worst thing. It's just printing it up for the meeting where that, the town now, these doors are not open before the meeting, which just by chance I came here yesterday afternoon to print these. Otherwise, I would have been here at 6:30 this morning trying to get in to print all this stuff, so. And, but Martha was able to deliver this for us from yesterday. That's it on the project. I think did we actually take a vote on accepting the minutes subject to the
Yes.
change?
Yes.
Okay. All right, why don't we go around the table? Eric, any,
Schedule.
2-week look ahead schedule, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself here. This was the 2-week look ahead schedule that I had gotten at, from the last week's weekly meeting. I don't think, has there been any changes to this?
An issue.
Okay. Although you'll probably see that today.
yes.
All right, so, as you go through these, Steve, why don't you chime in on these?
So we can just, there aren't that many items here, we can mention each one. So ongoing is the helical drilling design and submission package. So that's work ongoing to be submitted for the building area and for the site improvements outside the building area, excluding the paved area. That's underway, as is the design concepts that we hope to see later today for the paved area. So we look forward to some progress on those items. On-site activity includes some surveying and some drainage, storm drainage installation work, utility coordination work. That's basically what the look ahead includes, as well as the activity on site. Any other items, David, worthy of mention?
No, other than we'll have 3 good full days, today, tomorrow, and Friday, with site work and surveying.
Materials being brought in and all that, so.
I think the big milestone here is the ground improvements scheduled for the 26th of the month. That's when it begins.
Yeah.
All right, let's go around the table. Eric, any
No.
questions, concerns, comments?
I got my comment about this, the middle's out, so.
Okay.
So you're done.
One per meeting.
For me, it's all one.
Martha, how about yourself?
I don't have anything.
Okay. John?
Are we having a meeting before March 3rd? Oh, no.
So first, I just posted meetings, I think it's the 4th and 18th,
Yeah, it's our
which is the
planning
first and
meetings.
third.
Okay, so the only thing that'll be coming up before our next meeting is there'll be some traffic, possible traffic.
For the election.
Adjustments for the
Yeah.
election.
Yep.
We have everything under control and that we think, and it'll be actually good for the first one on the 3rd. It probably will give us a sneak peek as, on the more active ones, but.
Chief, you were gonna put together an event schedule
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
upcoming elections, or if the fire department has training or something that the site should know about in anticipation of traffic.
I did talk to the contractors doing all the work in the area there, and they'll be wrapped up by Tuesday.
Yeah. Okay.
So that won't be an issue.
I think, other than that stuff, I've got
Okay. Are you preparing that event schedule for them?
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I mean, like I
Strictly,
say,
I
it's
talked
nothing
to
well to
Leslie.
take in the
Yeah.
you could actually do, Mike, is just send the calendar,
Yeah,
and make it
so we'll
easy.
do, I mean, the fire department, their trainings usually take place in the evening.
Okay.
If they have it, on that site, usually they're over in the Byfield station because there's more room. But if they
Okay.
had anything on that site, it would take place in the evening and it wouldn't affect the construction. And, anything like that, I'll talk to Chief Jambret
Okay.
and make sure that we're in good shape.
Good. Zal?
Don't really have anything, no.
Steve?
Nothing further?
Okay. Dave? The only thing I ask guys is, with the rodent issue, is there any provision in the contract?
Honestly, I don't believe so, but I also have to say that I didn't have time to research.
Yeah, just.
So for
I'll think
on-site,
about
an on-site rodent control program, I looked, I didn't see anything in the project
Yeah.
manual. If this was like a city building.
Yeah, there
would
probably
be
is.
some-
Well, if there was
That would be-
demolition involved, then that would have been part of the
Yeah, right.
demolition,
Like I
so,
said,
okay.
yeah,
And
no
not that it wouldn't be a
structures.
bad idea anyway.
No, what it is just how we allocate the expense. So, do your due diligence, look to see if it's part of, that they're contractually obligated for it, and if not, we will follow the Board of Health's recommendations.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
certainly for the town property. All right, it's 7:38. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion
make
to
that
adjourn.
Okay, second.
Second.
So,
All right, all in favor?
All right.
Unanimous. Question, the second meeting is your weekly meetings are starting at 8:30. Does 7 o'clock, is this working okay for you, Eric?
It's getting worse for me. Yeah.
Maybe we have to meet at 6 o'clock now, or?
I now all of a sudden have more meetings on Wednesday than I can actually figure out what to do with,
Okay.
so
Well,
getting.
we just have sleepovers at his house.
Well, I mean, I think the thought is having 2 meetings posted a month
Yep.
to catch the pay recs as they come in. If we can cancel one, I mean, it's really, this is your project now. I mean, we're here just pushing people.
I think it's pretty normal state of affairs to have a building committee meet once a month to go through the whole thing and review and authorize pay. Because it's not unusual at all, monthly. If if that's, it will suffice for your,
So Sal, is that the meeting where the pencil rec comes out?
yeah.
So people
the
get
whole-
together for
The
discussion
whole
and
thing,
then,
the whole thing. We,
So let's talk
we
about that, because
provide-
we don't typically have a pencil rec review meeting with the building committee.
okay,
You know, we usually have that and make a recommendation
Right,
with
we
the.
recommend-
and- and-
3 people, 4 people that are used to that kind of process.
No,
so
absolutely,
that's why it's
certainly appreciate
coming
it.
out that way.
We could do however you'd like to do it. As the rec gets thicker, it's a long task to go through and identify all the items. What we've often done is gone through with the final rec and mentioned the items that were modified or came in at
Exactly.
X.
Yeah,
And we, you know, made recommendations and changes, and now it's at Y. We've done that, but whatever
Well,
works.
if we get a digital copy of the pencil rec and can get some comments back to you, I don't think we all necessarily need to meet if our comments can be
That's a great way to do it.
shared. But-
Yeah, I mean, I think what we can do is, I mean, the more I think about the payment applications are really the meat and bones of what we're doing.
Yeah.
I think I will still provide the whole document with all of the subsections and backup. But on the other stuff, like on the, say, on a not weed type item,
Getting the
I could
weeds
just
and-
put the first page.
When you get to that, we-
And,
And
oh,
then
the
we
same
get not
thing.
meet again, it'll be too soon.
Yeah. And know more about knotweed than
Oh,
I
jeez.
care to.
We can send out an electronic version of the pencil rec and create timing that says, we have this now, we plan to meet on whatever date, and get comments back and go from there. Does that sound like that would work for you?
or would you like us to do our review, make our comments, and we can mark up the pencil rec, and you can review our
That
markup?
would seem to be the normal, or the,
And
So
that
we're
way,
not duplicating, we're not, you know, you get. the
well, I'll give
first
you a
idea.
perfect example, the original PCO that came through from BC on the comm tower
oh, yeah,
had other value-added items that sells it per contract, you know,
no,
you get your markup, you don't get
anything else?
anything else. And it was a difference of about $12,000. It went from 65 back to 54.
Yeah, your first
54.
viewing would probably filter out about
Yeah.
30 to 40% of what we might do, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, whatever, it's
So-
just, it's.
I think actually, it'll be less confusing for the committee and the town once it's gone through your review and process. That was a perfect example, so, because they had sent a copy of that to me,
Yeah.
and I
You-
was gonna ask the very question that was, that,
Yeah,
you know, that was all self-contained, but
yeah,
context was right on top of that.
right on top.
But, all right, well, thank you, everyone, and I don't know who's gonna attend the meeting, as long as it doesn't exceed 3, we're,
I'm gonna be in my office anyway, so
Yeah.
whoever shows up, if there's not enough people, I'll come out of my office. If there are too many people, I'll stay in my
I'm
office.
going to attend because I wanna hear about the soil improvement things. I think Martha, I don't know if you're available.
I am, I'd be interested in.
Okay, and Eric, you're probably gonna,
Running out the door.
okay. So that leaves one of you two to
Okay,
do that, and it,
we'll do rock, paper, scissors. That's how we solved everything. We used to have a magic 8 ball, but